So why be creative? Why do we need to innovate? Permit me to define innovation. Creativity, we know, is to create something new. What of innovation? They are closely related. Innovation means to make changes, to do something in a new way. To do something in a new way. The pandemic has taught us to be creative as a people. The pandemic has made us to become innovative. And whatever it is that will happen to a man, whatever it is that will happen to a nation, whatever it is that will happen to a family, is never out of the sight of God. Is either God is the author, and if he's not the author, he has permitted it to happen. Please let that stick to the tables of our hearts. There is nothing that happens without the knowledge of God. He's either the author of it, and if he's not the author, the devil could be the author, but he has permitted it. So let that be settled. So the pandemic, is God the author of the pandemic? Maybe not. Did he permit it to happen? Oh, yes. And one of the lessons and takeaways is that the world has learned to be more creative and more innovative. How many of you agree with that? Now people do weddings by Zoom. People do funeral by Zoom. One of the biggest industries in Nigeria is the, how do I classify that? I don't want to say entertainment. Is the funeral and wedding, call it the party industry. Do I have a word? Hospitality? Events. Thank you. That's the word. It's events business. Lagos alone, it was a 20 billion naira business per annum before pandemic. It was a 20 billion naira industry before the pandemic. 20 billion. In Lagos. Data available from Lagos State. But the COVID happened. Monies were lost. Businesses were affected. But we are resurrecting out of it and becoming more innovative. Isn't it? Good. So, innovation is to make changes or to do something new in a new way, or to do something in a new way. That's what it means. You're already doing your business. Now it has been disrupted in a negative manner. How do I do it in a new way? Innovation also means to introduce something as new or as if it is new. It may be something you have been doing before, you repackage it and you introduce it as something new. The example of Milo has been cited, and all the sachet products. I will give another example. Many years before now, to think of owning a house, you must first think of owning a land. Right? You think of buying a land. And then when you think of buying the land, you leave it for many years until you start saving and saving and saving. Then along the way came Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. And there was some form of mortgage. But how many of you really know how Federal Mortgage Bank works? Somehow it's been there for years. I'm not sure many of us can feel their impact. But suddenly, a new generation, some people were guided. Some people's path were directed to a new path. They call it selling off the plan. Some folks will come to you, we have this design. That's what Pastor Daniel does. They say, we have this design, and then they don't even have a land. Then they look for somebody who has a land, who cannot develop it. They will enter into agreement with that person. Okay, give me this land, I will develop it. And then you take 1 or 2 units of the building. Isn't it? That's innovation. So now people don't think of owning a land. They just say, well, I want to have a house. I want to become a homeowner. And then somebody sells something to them on paper. They have not even seen the land. The land may not even be existing. And if it's existing, maybe they say, okay, you pay little by little, and in 3 years or 4 years, your building will be ready. That is innovation, right? So doing something in a new way. That's innovation. Okay, so the why. So why creativity and innovation? The first reason is to overcome the law of decay. That's why we need to be creative, to overcome the law of decay. To overcome the law of decay. Whether we like it or not, the law of decay is at work on the earth. And it will affect us if we don't deal with it. Everything man has ever created begins to decay from the moment it is created. I'm sure you agree with that. If you buy a brand new car today and you drive it out of the garage, dealers tells us you've lost 25% of its value. If you brought it back and say, well, I'm changing my mind, they can give you cash, your cash less 25%. That's the standard, where there is standard. If the man knows you and loves you so much, believe you me, he will never give you back the total amount you give him. How many of you know that? If you build your house today, that first day is just brand new. A few days later, it has begun to depreciate, even though the value may appreciate with time. But physically, the law of decay sets in. Right? Good. So, permit me to stand on two scriptures, to just read them to you, to show you and illustrate the power of this law of decay. Remember, I'm laying a foundation for us. Jeremiah chapter 2:21. The prophet said, quoting God, "Yet I have planted you a noble vine, a seed of highest quality. How then you have turned before me into the degenerate plant of an alien vine." That vine was planted a noble vine, a seed of highest quality. But the law of decay took toil on it, and it became degenerate, began to decay with time. Another scripture I would like to just read to you is Proverbs 27:24. Proverbs 27:24. "For riches are not forever, nor does a crown endure to all generations." Riches are not forever. A translation says, don't take them for granted. Possessions don't last forever, They don't last forever. So don't take them for granted. It's because the law of decay acts on any and all things that are created. So that's the law of decay. By way of definition, it states, a decline from a former standard or normal condition or character. A decline from a former standard. So whenever there's a decline in your standard, then you need to be creative. You need to be innovative to shore it up. If you build your house and you don't maintain it, the standard declines. It declines. So you need to be innovative. You need to do something new. You need to be creative so that you can bring it back to the standard it was originally meant to be. So secondly, what is the second reason why you need to be creative? Is to differentiate your business or your product or your service. Many years ago, for those of you who have been long enough in this city of Abuja, there was one particular type. If you are here in the 90s, let me see your hand. You've been in Abuja in the 90s. Good, a few people. There were no bakeries. In fact, there was none within the city of Abuja. Who can tell me the best bread in that time? There was only one bread. It used to come from Kaduna. Shaba bread. Thank you. That was the best bread, and they used to bring it from Kaduna. Why? That bread was different. It was different. Then came some new bakeries. Now it's 2 for 10 kobo. There are many bakeries. Right? So, one of the reasons why you need to be creative is to differentiate your business, to differentiate your product, to differentiate your service. Because there are many people in your field of business. So when we say creativity and innovation tools, your product must be differentiated. Oh, when they test it, oh, this is Shaba bread. When they test it, oh, this is this design. Oh, when they see it, they see your signature on it. So that's why you need to be creative. You need to be innovative so as to differentiate your business or your product or your service. Listen to this, friends. Every profitable business must have a unique selling point. And creativity and innovation is what will secure one for you. You must seek to have a unique selling point. What is your unique selling point? And it's only through creativity and innovation that can deliver that to you. In your field of business, in your mountain of influence, there are many players, but you must seek to have a unique selling point. Today, we're in the world of copy and paste. They copy a recipe and begin to produce it. You copy a business model and you begin to do it. Yes, it's allowed. Copy and paste is allowed. But you just be like the Joneses. You just be like the run of the mill. But if you really want to be successful as a micro, small, and medium enterprise, then you must strive to have a unique selling point. And it's creativity and innovation that will deliver that to you. So those are the whys of creativity and innovation. We will allow the experts to further break them down for us. Good. Let me go on to the what. The what of creativity and innovation. The what. In other words, what does it really entail? What does it entail? If you are going to tread the path of creativity and innovation, then you must embrace constant evaluation. Constant evaluation. You must be able to evaluate your business at every point in time so that you can determine the need for you to be creative or innovative. I will rest on one scripture, Proverbs 27:23. Proverbs 27:23, talking about the what of creativity and innovation. Proverbs 27:23 says, be diligent to know the state of your flocks and attend to your heart. Be diligent to know the state of your flocks. In other words, give careful attention to your business. You must be ready to put your business on the scale. If you are going to be creative, you must be constantly evaluating your business against a benchmark, against a standard that you have set, against the original vision that God put in your heart, against your desire. I want to have an events planning company, and then you have dreamt it up. So as you are going along, you must constantly put where you are on the scale, weigh it, evaluate it against the benchmark, so that you can determine the need to be creative and to innovate. Again, 2 points I will give you there under that. The first one is examine your business model. You must examine your business model. Is it healthy financially? Is it healthy ethically or morally? So you must constantly examine your business model. Listen, friends, I've seen people whose business are not making profit. But because they have money or they have other things they are doing, so they are not really sure, they're just doing it, but they are not watching the numbers. You must constantly, if you are going to be creative, you must constantly watch the numbers, examine your business model. Is this business profitable? Watch the numbers. If you don't know how, engage the services of an accountant. Even if it's on a part-time basis, invite them to come and help you look at your books. Put your books in place. You must examine, it says, be diligent to know the state of your flocks. If you don't know what you have, if you don't know where you are, then you will not see the need to be creative or to be innovative. As it was in the beginning, so it is, and so shall it be. There are some people, that's their what do you call it? That's their mantra. As long as, they are just going by and by. they will never see the need. But when you put yourself under constant examination, the banks are always examined. They have the exam department of central bank examination department, that are always putting them on their toes because they know they will be examined. So if they are doing sharp practices, they will know. The insurances, they have NICOM, and then the NDIC there, who are their police. So when they know that when these folks are coming for examination to examine their books, then they must be put on the spot. So what are we saying? You must examine your business model if you are going to be creative and innovative. The second aspect is not just to examine the business, is to examine the state of your flocks. In other words, your staff. How do you treat your staff? Do you treat your staff and colleagues well? Do you regard them? Do you have good working conditions for them? If you are going to expect maximum productivity from them, then you must also examine the state of the flocks. In other words, look at your conditions of service. Look at the things. Look at all of those. And I'll give you another scripture regarding that. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 10. We stand on that scripture as well, even for this point. Proverbs 12:10. A righteous man regards the life of his animal. Don't muzzle the ox that treads the grain. A righteous man regards the life of his animal, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. They are cruel. So what are we saying? The what of creativity must constant evaluation of your business. Always put it on the scale. 6 monthly, quarterly, 6 monthly, or annually. But at least, the least is once a year, examine your business. Evaluate yourself. How am I faring? How have I done? Look at the conditions of service. Look at all of those things. Put them on the scale. And that will determine your need for creativity and innovation. Thirdly, the third outcome, the how of creativity and innovation. The how. In other words, how do we go about being creative and being innovative? I've used a scripture and a story in the Bible. The story of God's children. And that's where this grasshopper complex paradox has come from. It's a story in the book of Numbers, chapter 13, from 1 to the end. We are not going to read it. Many of you know it, and if you don't know it, I recommend you to please read it. God had a vision for his people. And his vision was when he was taking them out of the land of bondage in Egypt, to take them to a land where some people were already existing, the land of Canaan. He said to them that that land was flowing with milk and honey, and that they needed to go in there and possess it. That was his charge to them. That was his desire for them. Just like many of us, we may have served people for many years, and now we want to set up our own business. So we want to set up our own business. So how do we go about it? So God spoke to his children. He commanded Moses, their leader at the time, to send spies to the land, to get them ready to walk before him and possess what he had given them. He wanted to give them a head start. So he said, look, you know what? Send spies. There are 12 tribes. So pick a leader from each of the tribes and let them go and do a reconnaissance survey. That is significant. A leader from each of the tribes. So when you're putting together your team, in United Kingdom, they operate the parliamentary type of system of government. And when a government is in power, the opposition always has what is called shadow government. How many of you know what I'm talking of? So they have a shadow chancellor of exchequer, minister of finance, a shadow internal secretary, and all of those posts. And what they are doing is looking at the policies of the ruling party, punching holes in it, and finding ways how it can be better done. So when the man comes to the parliament to defend their policies, the shadow secretary from the other party is tackling him. This is not possible. We have run the numbers. We have seen the statistics. This cannot happen. And at the end of the day, you have a robust governance. Because you can't come there and just say anything you like. They will challenge you. So what God did was, hey, you guys are going to possess that land. Okay, choose a leader from each of your tribes. It could represent various departments: marketing department, manufacturing department, sales department, logistics department, and then go to the land and go and see what is happening there. God wanted to give them a head start so that they could prepare, so that they know what to expect. So he commanded Moses to appoint 12 leaders. So they went. And then what happened? So let me tell you the intentions. God's intention with that spying exercise. There are 3 of them from my perspective and my understanding. The first one is that God wanted to calibrate their seeing, their hearing, and their speaking. Please take note: seeing, hearing, and saying or speaking. If we are going to be a creative people, then these 3 things are very crucial. How do you see? How do you hear? What are you hearing? And then what are you saying? So God wanted to calibrate these 3 elements of his people. And I'm putting it to you today. If you are going to be a creative person, how you see matters. What you are seeing matters. How you hear matters. And what you are hearing matters. And what you are saying matters. So that was, for me, one first intention. And I'm saying to you here today, if you are going to be a creative person, watch out for these 3 things: your seeing, your hearing, and your saying. Very, very crucial. If you cannot see what God is saying, if you cannot hear what he's saying and declare them, say them with your own mouth, creativity and innovation may be far from you. You must have the eyes of the Creator. Remember our national anthem, "O God of creation." So you must see as he's seeing. You must see the situations as he is seeing them. You must hear as he is hearing. You must see the invincible. You must hear what others are not hearing. Others are hearing discouragement and the noise of war, whereas you are seeing and hearing the sound of abundance. And then your words, what are you saying? This country, this wretched country. If that is what you are saying, then what will befall you is a wretched portion. Words are powerful. Jesus said, the words that I speak, they are spirit. Words are spirit. I'm sure many of you have experienced that before. You said some things and you found them so. Brother Job said in the scriptures in Job, he said, the things that I feared most have come upon me. Good things will come to you. So what are we saying? Seeing, hearing, and saying. So God wanted to calibrate their seeing. If you are going to be innovative, then you must watch out what you are seeing, what you are hearing, and what you are saying. The second thing that I believe God wanted to achieve by asking them to send spies to go and do a reconnaissance survey, to go and do their feasibility studies, to go and do, all of those things that people do, to do a proof of concept, is to walk them through the vision. Do you have an idea of a product? Have you walked through the various processes of producing that? Or it just exists on paper? But how is that product? Where do you source the raw materials? What of the machines that produces it? How do you distribute it? Is there a distribution chain already existing? Do you know how those things? You must walk through the vision. You must be ready to walk through the vision. And then thirdly, very importantly, I believe very closely linked to the second one is God wanted them to have a prophetic insight with God's binoculars. And one verse in that story that I'm using to illustrate to you is in verse 17 and 18. Numbers 13, 17 and 18. God said to them, go up this way into the south. Go up to the mountains and see what the land is like. It says, go up from this way to the south. Go up to the mountains and see what the land is like. It's like, hey, I'm here on this podium. Imagine this to be a mountain. And then God says, go to that mountain and see what the land is like. So that you have a good view of what is happening in that land. So that you will know how to take it over. And that is one thing for us as entrepreneurs. We must position ourselves in a place where we can see what is happening in that industry. Because God always desires to give us a head start. There are some of us, He has given us visions. We have ideas in our hearts that we want to do, but we don't know how to go about it. But one of the things that we must be able to do, if we are going to jumpstart that idea, is through creativity and innovation. We must be ready to walk through the vision and enter into a prophetic insight with God's binoculars. So, those are three things that I believe were the intentions of God when He asked them to go into the land and to spy it. To go into the land and to spy it. Good. Go up. Now, let me quickly share with you a tale, a parable of three wise monkeys. I'm sure many of you know this parable or this proverb. It's a proverb that originated from the East. They say, see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. Right? It's a common phrase. See no evil. See the first monkey closing his eyes. Hear no evil. And then speak no evil. That's good. Hearing, seeing, hearing, and speaking. What lessons is there is that these three wise monkeys is that they don't see everyone's flaws. I'm not sure you can see the slide. Can you give us the slide, technology? Okay, it's there. Okay, thank you. It says, don't see. When it says, see no evil, because as a result, many have shut their eyes. When it says, see no evil, he's saying, don't see everyone's flaws. In your line of business, if you are doing a reconnaissance survey, you will see shady practices that people are doing. You are not supposed to see those ones. There are guys who are excelling doing the right things. They are the ones you should see. Remember I talked about recalibration of what we are seeing, what we are hearing, and what we speak. So don't see evil. Don't see the flaws in the business. Every business has its downside, has its flaws. But if that's what you are concentrating upon, then you will never be creative. You may never even get to start. Number two, don't listen to everything you are told. When you are doing a reconnaissance survey, there are trade secrets that even your mentor may not be able to tell you, which you will discover. Do you get what I'm saying? So, and then again, from the negative side, don't believe anything negative that your competitor is saying. They can be telling you just to discourage you from the same business. Right? And then, thirdly, only speaks words of kindness. Only speak words of kindness. Don't use your own mouth to shut the door against yourself. Don't. Good. So this is important. But what is God's plan? Remember, I just want to bring your attention to it by my next slide. See, hear, and speak. See, hear, and speak. Very important. We're in a sight and a sound generation. And that's why what we see and what we hear are very important. Very crucial. And recalibration of these three is a must if we must become creative and innovative. We must be ready to see what God wants us to see, hear what He's saying, and declare them with our own mouth so that creativity, productivity, and success may be our portion. In the scriptures, Jesus warned his disciples in Mark chapter 4, verse 24. He says, take heed what you hear. Take heed what you hear. In Luke 8:18, it says, take heed how you hear. There is a what and there is a how that we hear. And if we are going to be creative, then we must take heed. And of course, we know that faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And if we believe, then we will speak. If you believe in your vision, be the chief proponent of that vision. Nobody's going to market your good for you as yourself. You are the chief executive in a startup. You must be the chief mouth, the chief speaker. Do you get me? You must be the chief proponent of it. You must declare your vision. Somebody's inviting you to come and make a pitch. Don't send your people. If you're a startup, you go there and be the chief spokesperson. See, hear, and speak. Okay, so let me go into the last few slides now. What are the lessons from that grasshopper complex paradox? Remember, in verses 17 and 18, it says, go up from the south. Go up to the mountain and see the people that dwell therein. So, what are the indices to look out for, or the lessons from that story? Remember, we haven't read it. I assume that many of you know the story, and because of our precious time. And for those that do not, I've paraphrased it for us while I started. Good. So the first thing to look out for if you're a business person is the people. God told them, see what the land is like, whether the people who dwell in it. The people. People are so crucial to the prosperity of any business, any institution, and any enterprise. People or the personnel or your staff can either cause your business to prosper or cause it to die. No matter how beautiful, how genuine, how grandiose the vision is, people is important. Someone say, Pastor, well, you know what? We're in the era of technology. Yes, technology. But it's men that will input the data for you. If they enter the wrong data, you are going to get wrong results. So people is very crucial. So when God said to them, see what the land is like, whether the people, if you're going to be a startup, who you bring up as your co-founders matter. Who you invite in. Because you need a technology person does not mean you must automatically make the technology person a co-founder. Because you need a good marketer does not mean you should automatically make the person a co-founder. Are you with me? People are very crucial, and God recognizes this. Very, very crucial. In Proverbs 20, verse 6, allowed me to rest on this authority of Scripture. Proverbs 26 says, most men will proclaim each his own goodness, but who can find a faithful man? Who can find a faithful man? My youngest daughter was graduating from high school. She did maybe a foundation program or whatever it is before entering college. And it was in August of this year. And we're sitting at the table. You know, the parents were sitting at the table. And one of the persons that was sitting with my wife and I the child is also graduating. And we began, I don't know what happened, and we're talking of people and personnel. He said, Mr. Man, sir, that I'm running a restaurant in this town. One of the successful restaurants. He said, I employ over 50 staff. He said, but every month I'm always changing staff. I said, why? He said, to find faithful people. He said, it's difficult. That in fact, that is always on his toes is either the people in the kitchen, they are doing one deal, or the people. He said, look, the thing don't tire me. Oh. I said, hey. He said, brother, people are crucial to the success, and God recognizes it. He says, see whether the people who dwell in it, they are strong or weak. Now, two issues there. The first one, God wanted them to do a qualitative analysis of the people. Qualitative analysis. What do I mean? Check whether they are strong or weak. It's talking about the quality of the people there. Are the people available? Are they skilled? Are they teachable? Are they qualified? Are they adaptable? More importantly, do they have the good character? Do they have the good character? Anybody is teachable. Not everybody is teachable. But there are people who have good character. And I'm so passionate about this. The Fortune 500 companies in the US, these days, the major tool they look for are the soft skills, the character skills, the interpersonal skills, relational skills, the emotional intelligence. That's what they are looking for. Anybody can be taught the hard skills, but not everybody is teachable to have a good character. So people, God says, check out those people. Are they strong or weak? What is the quality of people that are available for your startup? What is the quality of people? So God was interested in that. He said, check out whether the people who dwell there are strong or weak. Then secondly, is the quantitative analysis of the people. If you're going to do a setup, find out. There is saying whether they are few or many. God says, check the people there. Are there few or many? God was simply saying, do we have enough skilled workers to run that business you're about to set up? Do you have enough? Do you have enough? Quantitative analysis. Are there enough teachers to run that school successfully? Are there enough tailors to run your new fashion industry? Are there enough coaches, enough marketers? So God was interested in the qualitative and the quantitative analysis. And you also must do this if you have a business. You must carry out a qualitative analysis of the people available and also the quantitative analysis. So those are indices to look out for. A quick aside, whether the people are strong or weak. I found this interesting slide I thought to share with you. You see the strong guy there, and then you see the weak guy, isn't it? But you know something? I said something a while ago. I said God's ecosystem is a balanced ecosystem. Whether strong or weak, listen to this whisper about life. Strong people create good times, isn't it? When there are strong leaders, there'll be good times. But you know what good time does? Good times creates weak people. And weak people will create bad times. And then bad times will in turn create good people again. So the cycle continues. That's why you find in a family, the young man or young woman, the breadwinner of the house, is atapata the day. In other words, he struggled through life. Now he has succeeded. Watch out, parents. Because he has succeeded, he creates good times for his children, isn't it? Sometimes those children become weak children because of the good times. And then those children create bad times. They are spoiled, they don't go to school, they become school dropouts. Some of them go on drugs, and they create bad times. They force them to marry for them, do everything for them, get house for them. And at the end of the day, the marriage is a disaster, their lives are ruined. And then they give birth to children, and then those children wise up and now create and become strong. They grow out of the badness. Does that bless you? I pray that the Lord will help us. A man known as Eliphaz Levi said, and I quote, "Weak people talk and do not act. Strong people act and they keep quiet. Weak people talk and do not act. Strong people act and they keep quiet. Strong people rarely have an easy past. If you see a man that is strong today, check them out. They rarely had an easy past. Okay, let me move on as I begin to close. I think I've overshot by 2 minutes. I'm timing myself. Okay, secondly, remember I said, what are the indices God expected them to learn? First is people. Number 2 is land. Land, verse 19 of that Numbers 13. He said, see what kind of land they live in. This was God to his people. We're using it as a paradox to speak to us. He says, see what kind of land they live in. Is it good or bad? Do their towns have walls, or are they unprotected like open camps? And 2 things this is saying to us again. Number 1, God wanted them to carry out an environmental analysis. Carry out an environmental analysis. EIA, environmental impact analysis. What is the impact of that environment upon this business you want to set up? Is it a good environment that will allow this business to thrive? Or is it bad? Are there homoniles there that even though you have bought the land, they will continue to disturb you? Do they have indigenization issues such that they know you are not an indigene and you go and set up a business where they are not indigenes friendly or they are not outsiders friendly? Your business may be endangered. So God wanted them to carry out environmental analysis. Is the land good or bad? And then the second thing regarding land is institutional analysis. He said, do their towns have walls, or are they unprotected like open camps? In other words, does the environment guarantee security and protection of your investment? Is the security and the protection of your investment, is it guaranteed? Is it a state that has respect for law and order? What is their ease of doing business rating? EDB, the ease of doing business. What is their ease of doing business rating? Do they have a legal framework that will allow you to operate unhindered? Or are they going to wake up tomorrow and set up a law that will paralyze your business? So God says, do their towns have walls? Are they unprotected? Is the environment able to... Why do you think investors shy away from Nigeria? Why are they going to Ghana? They know an attorney general can wake up one day and say what is not. Do you understand? So is their towns, do they have walls or they are unprotected? Talking about institutional analysis, the investment climate. In 2016, the governments of the present day set up the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council. It's chaired by the Vice President, and it comprises of the Minister of Industry, Trade, and several other ministries. What was their job? To make recommendations on institutional reforms to promote Nigeria's investment attractiveness. To promote Nigeria's investment attractiveness. We need to check out the land, the enabling environment. No matter how great your business idea is, friends, if the environment is not conducive, it can choke your business to death. The third thing, quickly. What is the third thing that God wanted them to look out for, which is a standard for any business? It says, check out the land infrastructure. Verse 20, Numbers 13:20. Whether the land is rich or poor. The first one I told you was environment. This is about the infrastructure of the land. Is it rich or poor? Whether there are forests there or not. In other words, what is the nature of the soil? Is it a fertile land? Is it? Do they have the infrastructure? Is there electricity? Is there water? Are there good roads? All the utilities required for a business to thrive, are they available? Are they available? Do they have the basic amenities for minimum human comfort of workers to ensure maximum productivity? Do they have the transport that will ferry people? Are there houses within the city where workers can stay and commute to work early enough? God was asking them to check out the landed infrastructure. And to that, it speaks of two things which I've mentioned. One, raw materials availability. The input to your business, is it readily available? Is the land fertile? And then secondly, utilities and support infrastructure. Electricity, water, and transport, which I've already mentioned. And then last but not the least, God said to them in the same verse 20, be of good courage. Bring some of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the season of the first ripe grapes. In other words, bring samples. Again, this last point speaks of two things. Accurate empirical data. Get your facts right. Do your research. Run the numbers. I beg of you. Check National Bureau of Statistics. Check various data. There are various data. There are various websites where you can mine data from regarding your business, regarding what you want to go through. Please, let's do that. Get your facts right. And secondly, it says, be of good courage. It takes courage to speak the truth and present accurate data against your emotions. Against your emotions. In Numbers 13, verse 23, the New Living Translation says, when they came to the valley of Eshcol, they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes, so large that it took two of them to carry it on pole between them. They also brought back samples of the pomegranates and the figs. It's talking of data, accurate data, accurate data, accurate data. Very important. So let me summarize that story and leave you with this to think about. There are 12 spies that were sent. Can you imagine them as two groups of investors? The first set is represented by the 10 investors, the 10 spies, and then the second group by the 2 investors. Now, those 10 investors, look at their characteristics. Number 1, they allowed emotions to override their sense of judgment. Did they? They brought back word to them that yes, in fact, the land is, look, we saw giants there. We did this, we did that. So they allowed emotions to override their sense of judgment. Number 2, they watered down the truth, infusing lies into facts. Fear overtook them, and they developed the grasshopper complex. Then they were walking by sight. And number 6, they were mourning and amplifying the obstacle. These folks were they were giant conscious. They were giant conscious. And lastly, they underestimated their potentials. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, please don't allow your emotions to override your sense of judgment. Don't water down the truth. Don't infuse lies into facts. Don't allow fear to overtake you. As a matter of fact, that's the grasshopper complex. They developed the grasshopper complex. One of the other 2 investors, Joshua and Caleb, they were spirits controlled and they were focused. They held up the banner of the truth. They became courageous and were motivated to take over the land. They walked by faith. They rejoiced and thanked God for the opportunity he has given. In other words, they were God conscious, while the other guys were giant conscious. These 2 guys were God conscious, and they believed in God's capacity in them. The summary of it, the other guy says in verse 32, the Bible says they gave the children of Israel a bad report of the land which they had spied out, saying, the land through which we have gone as spies is a land that devours its inhabitants. That's not true. That was a lie. If it was, then there would have been nobody left in that land when they got there. And all the people whom we saw in it are men of great stature. That is true. So you see how they infused lies with truth. And many of us, when we are doing a survey, that is sometimes something that we do. There we saw the giants. And we were like grasshoppers in our own sight. And so we were in their sight. I pray that we will not be like the two investors. We will hold up the banner of truth. We will become courageous and be motivated to take over the land. In conclusion, we've talked about the why. The law of decay is at work, always at work. And we've talked about the reason why you must be creative and innovative, that you need to have a unique selling point that will differentiate your product from others. We've talked about the what, and the what is constant evaluation. You must examine your business model at every point. That's why companies have 6 months report, annual report, half-year report. They are constantly evaluating their performance so that they will identify areas of creativity where they need to tune up themselves. And then we've talked about the how. And we've said we must embark, if you're a startup or about starting, embark on a walkthrough of your vision, of your idea, or your product with God's binoculars. And you must recalibrate your seeing, your hearing, and your speaking. You must recalibrate it. You must recalibrate it. And last but not the least, you must overcome the grasshopper complex paradox, which is fear. Just like the horse is identified with strength in the scriptures, the grasshopper is associated with fear. Do you know the reason why those guys were saying all the bad reports? Fear. The grasshopper is associated with fear. Permit me, as I close, with Job 39. Job 39, verses 19 to 22. Job 39, 19 to 22, the original King James Version. Have you given strength? Have you given the horse strength? Have you clothed his neck with thunder? Can you make him afraid as a grasshopper? Fear is what makes people distort the truth. They saw giants there truly, but those giants were supposed to see, they were supposed to see in those giants possibilities that, hey, we have strong workmen that can help us to deliver the goods. My prayer is that we will overcome fear and go in the strength of these things. Don't be afraid. Overcome the grasshopper complex. Recalibrate your seeing, your hearing, and speaking, and take over your mountain. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.
We can clap again, please.